What's up, guys? We are back with another Mythic Legions review, taking a look at one of the upgraded, updated style of figures in this particular wave. So it was sort of split down the middle. We've got some that were updated, and then some that were just sort of brand new Legion builders. And this guy is our Cavern Dwarf 2. So the Cavern Dwarf originally came out in Advent of Decay, and this guy is similar, but a little bit different. So kind of a change up from that first figure. I am not the biggest dwarf guy. It's probably my least favorite race when it comes to Legions. But I really like this figure because it just came with so much stuff. So we've got him here in our standard Legion style box, of course. You got your figure in the window. We've got our faction card on one spot, and we've got our bio on the other. And then the back of the box, just like the rest of this wave, is going to give us cross-sell for this entire batch, our Nate bar chart work, and then of course a Mythos write-up. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Mythic Legions Reinforcements 2 Cavern Dwarf 2 figure. So like I said, I'm not the biggest dwarf guy, but I'm still pretty excited to take a look at this guy. This guy originally came out in the Advent of Decay wave, and he is our lone dwarf in this wave. Now, as far as articulation goes, he's a 1.0 figure. He just has stubby legs, so let's move him around, see what he can do. He does have a very long beard, so this is obviously going to hinder articulation. I mean, it absolutely does. So dwarves typically have the different kind of neck adapter, so he's got that kind of neck, so it lunges forward and it has this little nub here that will sort of keep it in place. Pop that on. He really can't do much but sort of bobble side to side, and you've got some rotation, but he is limited by this massive beard. The original Cavern Dwarf figure had a different head sculpt that came on him in the package, and it also suffered from the long beard syndrome. Arms are going to go out. They swivel. You've got your single jointed about 90-degree elbow. You've got gauntlet swivel. You've got wrist swivel and hinge, of course. He's a 1.0 figure, so he does have the single torso piece. So you've got, pretty decent range there. Not bad. Legs are going to go out about yay far. Kick forward, you basically get him to do the splits. Kick backward, you've got a thigh twist up there. You've got single jointed swiveling knee. And then you've got rotation at the top of the ankle, rocker, and you've got some hinges there too. So, very much par for the course. If you've messed with one 1.0 figure, you've messed with them all, really. The only difference about this guy specifically is that his beard is going to get in the way, and of course, his legs are smaller, they're shorter, but they still have the same kind of articulation that you would expect to find on more normal size figures. Now, admittedly, not being much of a dwarf fan, that's just kind of a blanket statement. I'm not huge on dwarfs. I do really like this one. I got a couple of these when Advent of Decay came out. I knew I needed more than one of this guy just because of the color scheme. I really like this particular set of armor. I like this mix of parts. I'm still hesitant to use this word because it doesn't really make sense, but it does at the same time. I get nostalgic for some of these mix of parts when it's a very classic 1.0, like original Kickstarter, old Legions builds. And that's what this guy is. So it kind of takes me back to those old days where, not everybody knew about this line, right? And this is one of those instances where if you miss that first figure, you're going to get a chance to get him again. And he is not exactly the same, but he's pretty close. And let's pull in one of the originals. So this again is from the Advent of Decay wave, which is the second major Kickstarter, and it's 5 years old at this point, I think. So this is the head that we're not getting with this figure. So this head came with the Deluxe Legion builders, and they changed it up to match this paint. You won't be getting this one, but the alt head that's included, the fully armored dwarf head, still is included in that, and we'll talk about that later. But I'm really happy with the color here, not just in the sense that I like the color, but the sense that it's still very consistent between the old and the new. I think, I kind of feel like there's always going to be a problem with something like this where they're going to reissue a figure and maybe the color isn't going to match, but it hasn't really been an issue with these reinforcements figures, except for where they didn't want it to match, like with the Golden Knight specifically. But I think this is really consistent and works really nicely. Like, you'd be hard-pressed to tell which one is truly new, except for the fact that this one's probably got a little dust on him. And that's a personal thing. You're not going to get dust on your figure, but I'm really happy with the way this guy turned out. Great mix of parts. The color, again, is really fantastic. This copper bronze look, I'm really happy with. It's bright and vibrant because it's fully metallic from top to bottom, well, except for that beard. But it's also really, really deep and dark, and he doesn't necessarily look like he's a happy dwarf, and he's not. So I think that's pretty cool. There's also the fact that, again, he is the Legion builder, so He doesn't have any of that intricate detail filled in. None of this filigree work or inlaid piping is going to be painted. Well, detailed painted rather, it's painted. But if you wanted to get in there and add some color and make him pop, he certainly is going to pop just by virtue of having all this metallic. And then if you put a few minutes into, painting the dots again, as they say, it'll make him even cooler. I do really like this head sculpt that we got. Again, this is from the Deluxe Legion Builder wave, so it's a newer head, but it was not included originally with this figure. And I think it integrates pretty nicely here. It looks good with this color. I really like the beard on this head sculpt. The braids in particular is the big thing that draws me to it, and that super bushy mustache. Very cool. And then you've also got the horns up top, which are removable and swappable, and there are other horns included with this guy because he's got a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, just through and through, despite not being a big dwarf guy, I really like this one. They may not be my favorite race, but they still make for really, really cool figures, and this guy is no exception. Now, as far as accessories goes, this is an area where this figure has always been really good, just like back in the original Advent of Decay wave, and now this figure comes with a lot of stuff. There's a lot of different options as far as weaponry, and then you also get multiple horn options, you get extra heads, you get pauldrons, really just about everything is represented here. So to start with, we do get our extra head sculpt, and this is one that's been seen multiple times before. It's actually in this wave again with the Silverhorn Sentry, but this is that fully armored, bearded dwarven head sculpt. So it's like a fully helmeted head that has like its own armor beard, which I always thought was really cool. I do prefer this one in many instances. Again, though, there is a change between this figure and the original. That original figure has the Barbarian head sculpt. This one includes the more recent Deluxe Legion Builder Dwarf, and this gives you an idea of what we're talking about when it comes to those horns. So you've got smaller ones, and you've got bigger ones, and you can swap them. We also get some pauldrons with this guy. So these are some of my favorite pauldrons in the line. They're those big Dark Knight style pauldrons. I will say, on this figure in particular, with either head really, it is going to get in the way a little bit with articulation because it has these spikes that stick out the side. So it's going to sort of frame that head sculpt. Moving it will be a little bit more challenging and locked down than normal, but he looks so much cooler with those. And then when it comes to weaponry, he has a lot of stuff. So there's just a whole bunch of things here. To start with, we do get the big monster hammer, which is something that we've seen a lot with dwarves, and then of course with barbarians. So all this stuff is really dark. It's not the same color as the armor, but it does have a light metallic overspray. It's not black, but it's like a really, really, really deep golden brown almost, if that makes sense. That's how it comes across to me anyway. So we've got the hammer, and then we've got two axes. So we've got like the more barbaric looking wooden axe with the stone inlay handle, or the blade rather. So it's got some detail up there. I really like this one. It's a little bit more rustic, I suppose. And then this is like a full-on, this looks like a dwarven axe. So very, very metal from top to bottom, and very, I guess, precise in terms of how it's made. Like this is forged instead of just being a stick of wood, basically. So I like that. And then easily the star of the show when it comes to accessories is going to be this dwarven shield, which these were introduced in Advent of Decay, right? A couple of figures came with them. They were in a weapons pack, and there's just tons of detail all over this. There's that gives me like a very King Under the Mountain kind of look and feel. It's got a unique shape. It's got all these runes and just the detail all over it. It's got a handle on the back, no clip. And again, all of this is very much consistent when it comes to color. And he also gets our ever-present strap. So this guy is loaded from top to bottom. Tons of stuff. Pauldrons, head, horns, and a bunch of different weaponry. So yeah, overall, despite the fact that I'm not a big dwarf guy, I've made that abundantly clear, I think, and they're not my favorite. There are some that are really cool, but in general, I prefer a lot of other stuff. Orcs, demons, skeletons in particular. But this is a really solid figure, and there's no denying the fact that there's also a lot of value with this guy too. Specifically more than a lot of the other figures in this reinforcements wave, just because of how much stuff this guy came with in Advent of Decay. So you get a lot of weaponry, you get multiple head sculpts, you get multiple sets of horns, you get pauldrons. There's a lot of stuff crammed into this box, and I do like the direction they took to change him up at least a little bit and give us that newer DLB dwarf head sculpt, just to make him a little bit different, because I like that head in this color scheme, and it'll go alongside the older figure with a barbarian head sculpt really well and give you a little bit more variety on the shelf. So that's going to do it for this look at the Mythic Legions Reinforcements 2 Cavern Dwarf 2. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.